Imagine living in a city that's rapidly losing its charm, its economy crumbling, and its population dwindling. What could be the reasons behind such a dramatic downfall? Is it due to economic struggles, political instability, or maybe the unpredictable impact of global trends? In this video, we're diving deep into the 10 fastest collapsing cities in Canada in 2025. Which cities are on the brink, and what's pushing them to the edge? Could your city be on this list? And if it is, would you stay or start packing? Number 10. St. John, New Brunswick. St. John, New Brunswick holds the title as Canada's oldest incorporated city, but sadly, it's also one of the fastest declining. Once a thriving industrial hub, this city has been hit hard by population loss, high unemployment, and a struggling economy. In 1971, St. John had 89,000 people. Fast forward to 2025, barely 68,000 remain. A shocking 23% population drop in just 50 years. Why? Simple. Jobs have disappeared. The city was heavily dependent on manufacturing and shipping, but with the decline of traditional industries, thousands of jobs were lost. Young people? They're fleeing to places like Toronto, Halifax, and Calgary for better opportunities. And it's not just jobs. The unemployment rate sits at 8.5%, one of the highest in the country. The median household income? Just $55,000, compared to Canada's national average of $75,000. That means many families are struggling to make ends meet. The housing market isn't helping either. While St. John was once considered one of Canada's most affordable cities, property values have dropped by 15% in just 5 years. Sellers are having a hard time, and empty homes are becoming more common. Oh, and did I mention the weather? This city sees over 200 days of fog per year, making it one of the gloomiest places in Canada. Combine that with long, brutal winters, and it's no surprise that people are packing up and leaving. St. John still has a rich history and beautiful coastal views, but if things don't change soon, this city might fade into obscurity faster than you think. Number 9. Timmins, Ontario. Timmins, Ontario was once a gold mining paradise, but now it's starting to look more like a ghost town. The city's entire economy has been built around the mining industry, and that's exactly why it's falling apart. First, let's talk jobs. In 2025, mining isn't what it used to be. Thanks to automation and AI, many mining jobs have disappeared. Companies now use self-driving trucks and robotic drilling machines, replacing human workers at an alarming rate. Timmins has lost nearly 2,000 mining jobs in the past decade. That's huge for a city with a population of just 40,000 people, and when jobs disappear, people leave. Over the past 5 years, Timmins' population has dropped by 5%, and it's still shrinking. Many young people don't see a future here, so they're moving to cities with better job markets. Then there's the crime problem. In 2024, Timmins recorded a 20% increase in violent crime compared to the previous 5 years. Unemployment often leads to higher crime rates, and that's exactly what's happening here. Housing? It's a mixed bag. The average home price in Timmins is around $250,000, which might seem affordable compared to Toronto. But with wages stagnating, even that is out of reach for many families. Meanwhile, rental prices have increased by 8% in just 2 years, making it harder for lower-income residents to find stable housing. If you're thinking of moving to Timmins, be ready for harsh winters, limited job opportunities, and a town that feels like it's slowly emptying out. It's not all bad. There's still plenty of nature and outdoor activities, but unless you work in mining, Timmins doesn't have much to offer anymore. Number 8. Sudbury, Ontario. Sudbury, the place that literally put nickel on the map. Once the backbone of Canada's mining industry, this city was booming back in the day. But now, things are going downhill fast. If Sudbury were a stock, investors would be running for the exits. Let's start with the biggest issue: an aging population. Right now, nearly 25% of Sudbury's residents are over 65, making it one of the oldest cities in Canada. That's great if you're looking for a retirement home, but bad news if you're a young professional. People under 40, they're leaving in droves because there just aren't enough job opportunities. Since 2010, Sudbury has lost over 7,000 residents, and the trend isn't slowing down. Speaking of jobs, Sudbury's unemployment rate is sitting at 7.9%, way above Canada's national average of 5.5%. Mining, which used to employ thousands, isn't what it used to be. Companies are automating tasks that used to require human labor, cutting down jobs every year. Plus, global demand for nickel has fluctuated, making the local economy unpredictable. And let's talk about housing. In most parts of Canada, house prices are insane. But in Sudbury, home values have dropped by 10% in the last 5 years. If you're a homeowner looking to sell, good luck. Buyers aren't interested. Rent isn't much better either. Even though Sudbury has some of the cheapest rents in Ontario, about $1,500 per month for a 2-bedroom apartment, wages have stagnated. Grocery prices here are 12% higher than the national average, and gas prices? Some of the highest in Ontario. Oh, and let's not forget healthcare. 15,000 residents don't have a family doctor, and emergency room wait times are among the longest in the country. So if you're planning to move here, pray you don't get sick. It's not all bad. Sudbury still has beautiful lakes, forests, and hiking trails. But unless the city revamps its economy, young people will continue to leave, businesses will shut down, and Sudbury will keep shrinking. Number 7. Thunder Bay, Ontario. Once a thriving port city, Thunder Bay was a major hub for shipping, forestry, and manufacturing. But today, it's slowly emptying out, and it's one of the fastest declining cities in Ontario. Let's look at the population crisis first. Back in the 1970s, Thunder Bay had nearly 130,000 residents. In 2025, that number has dropped to just 108,000, and it keeps falling every year. Young people aren't staying. Why? Because there's no future here. The job market is a disaster. Unemployment is at 8.3%, one of the highest in the province. The forestry industry collapsed years ago, and Thunder Bay never really recovered. Manufacturing plants have shut down, and while there are still jobs in healthcare and education, they aren't enough to keep the city alive. And let's not forget crime. In 2024, Thunder Bay had one of the highest crime rates in Canada. The city has a serious issue with drug-related crimes, and gang violence is becoming a major problem. It's so bad that the city's Crime Severity Index, CSI score, is 114, which is almost double the national average of 76. That means Thunder Bay is statistically more dangerous than Toronto, Vancouver, and even Winnipeg. Then there's the weather. If you hate winter, Thunder Bay is your worst nightmare. It gets over 200 centimeters of snow every year, and temperatures can drop to minus 30 degrees Celsius, or minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not just cold, it's painfully, brutally, ridiculously cold. Housing is cheap, sure, but what good is that when nobody wants to move here? The average house price is just $350,000, making it one of the most affordable cities in Ontario. But since the local economy is struggling, even that feels expensive. Thunder Bay has some beautiful landscapes and a great outdoor lifestyle. But with high unemployment, rising crime, and a declining population, this city is on a downward spiral. Number 6. Windsor, Ontario. Windsor, Ontario, the city right across from Detroit, Michigan, was once the heart of Canada's auto industry. If you wanted a good-paying factory job, Windsor was the place to be. But now, it's falling apart faster than an old car engine. Let's start with jobs. Windsor's economy is almost entirely dependent on the auto industry. The problem? The car industry is changing, and Windsor isn't keeping up. Factories that used to employ thousands are downsizing, moving operations to the US, or switching to automation. In 2025, Windsor's unemployment rate is sitting at 9.2%, one of the highest in all of Canada. Then there's the housing crisis. Windsor used to be affordable, but not anymore. The average house price in 2015 was $200,000. Today, over $600,000. That's a 200% increase in just 10 years. Rents have also skyrocketed. A 2-bedroom apartment now costs over $2,000 per month, making it almost as expensive as Toronto. The worst part? Wages haven't kept up. Windsor has some of the lowest wages in Ontario, and many people are struggling just to keep up with the cost of living. And crime? It's bad. Windsor has seen a 25% increase in violent crime over the past 5 years. Drug trafficking, break-ins, and gang activity are all on the rise. The city has a Crime Severity Index, CSI, score of 105, making it one of the most dangerous mid-sized cities in Canada. And then there's the pollution. Because of its close proximity to Detroit and its reliance on the auto industry, air quality in Windsor is among the worst in Canada. The city frequently ranks in the top 5 for air pollution, which has led to higher rates of asthma and respiratory diseases. Windsor still has a lot going for it, especially its casino and proximity to the US border. But unless it finds a way to revitalize its economy, things are only going to get worse. People are leaving, businesses are closing, and Windsor is looking more and more like Detroit every day. Number 5. Regina, Saskatchewan. Regina, the capital of Saskatchewan, known for its prairie landscapes, friendly people, and, let's be real, a struggling economy. Regina was once a booming city, a place where people moved for affordable housing and job opportunities. But in 2025, it's one of the fastest collapsing cities in Canada, and things are not looking good. First, let's talk population decline. Regina's population is currently sitting at just under 230,000, but people are leaving faster than ever. In the last 5 years alone, Regina lost over 10,000 residents, with young professionals and families moving to bigger cities like Calgary, Edmonton, or even Toronto. The reason? A shrinking job market. Regina's economy has always been tied to oil, gas, and agriculture. But with oil prices constantly fluctuating and automation replacing farm workers, jobs are drying up. Unemployment is at 7.5%, significantly higher than Canada's national average. And here's the kicker. Over 30% of the jobs in Regina are low-wage positions that don't keep up with the rising cost of living. Speaking of cost of living, Regina's housing market is crashing. In 2015, the average home price was around $350,000. In 2025, it's dropped to $295,000, a 15% decrease. That might sound great for buyers, but when people are leaving and job prospects are grim, nobody is buying. Some homeowners are stuck with mortgages higher than their home's value. And then there's crime. Regina has one of the highest crime rates in Canada, with a Crime Severity Index, CSI, of 127, nearly double the national average. Break-ins, vehicle thefts, and violent crimes have surged in the past 5 years. On top of all this, infrastructure is crumbling. Potholes, outdated public transport, and poor healthcare services make living here even more difficult. Regina has one of the longest ER wait times in Canada, with some patients waiting over 14 hours just to see a doctor. At this rate, unless Regina reinvents itself, it will continue to shrink, making it one of the fastest collapsing cities in Canada. Number 4. Hamilton, Ontario. Hamilton was once one of the most industrialized cities in Canada. If you worked in steel manufacturing, Hamilton was the place to be. But in 2025, the city's nickname, Steel Town, feels more like a reminder of the past than the present. Hamilton is struggling hard, and here's why. In the past decade, Hamilton lost over 10,000 jobs in the steel industry alone. Factories that used to employ generations of families are shutting down or relocating. Companies like Stelco and Dofasco, which once dominated the city's economy, are downsizing, leaving thousands unemployed. The result? Hamilton's unemployment rate has climbed to 8.1%, one of the highest in Ontario. Housing is another major issue. Back in 2015, Hamilton was considered an affordable alternative to Toronto. But now, house prices have skyrocketed. The average home price in Hamilton in 2025 is $840,000, a 200% increase from a decade ago. Even rent is insane. A 2-bedroom apartment costs over $2,500 per month, pricing out middle-class families. And let's talk about crime. Hamilton's Crime Severity Index, CSI, is 97, well above the national average. Violent crimes, break-ins, and drug-related offenses have spiked 30% in the last 5 years. Parts of Hamilton, like downtown Core and Barton Street, have seen a major increase in gang activity. Then there's pollution. Hamilton is still one of the most polluted cities in Canada, thanks to its industrial background. Air quality levels here are some of the worst in Ontario, leading to higher rates of asthma and lung disease. The steel industry may be dying, but its toxic legacy remains. So what's next for Hamilton? The city is trying to revamp its economy, focusing on tech and education. But with crime, unemployment, and housing costs pushing people out, it's hard to see a bright future. Unless Hamilton reinvents itself quickly, it risks becoming a ghost town of the past. Number 3. Kelowna, British Columbia. Kelowna used to be one of the most desirable cities in Canada. With its beautiful lakes, wineries, and stunning mountains, it was a dream destination. But fast forward to 2025, and Kelowna is collapsing fast. Let's start with affordability, or the lack of it. Kelowna was once an affordable alternative to Vancouver, but now it's one of the most expensive cities in Canada. The average home price in 2025 is over $1.2 million, making it completely unaffordable for most Canadians. Rent? Over $3,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment, higher than even Toronto or Montreal. People are leaving because they simply can't afford to stay. Then there's the job market. Kelowna relies heavily on tourism, wine, and real estate, but all three are struggling. With inflation and rising interest rates, fewer people are traveling, leading to mass layoffs in the hospitality industry. The real estate market is also cooling down, and construction jobs are disappearing. As a result, unemployment has risen to 7.3%, higher than the national average. And let's not forget wildfires. Kelowna has been hit hard by climate change, experiencing some of the worst wildfires in Canadian history. In 2023, the city faced over $200 million in wildfire damages, and 2024 was even worse. Residents are constantly evacuating, and insurance costs have skyrocketed. Some homeowners have seen their insurance premiums triple in just 5 years. Crime is another issue. Kelowna has one of the highest crime rates in British Columbia, with a Crime Severity Index, CSI, of 115, even higher than Vancouver. Property crime, theft, and drug-related offenses are at an all-time high, making some areas completely unsafe. Kelowna is still one of the most beautiful places in Canada, but its high cost of living, economic instability, and environmental disasters are pushing people out. If things don't change, Kelowna will go from being Canada's paradise to a city in crisis. Number 2. Lethbridge, Alberta. Lethbridge, once a peaceful and growing city in southern Alberta, is now facing a downward spiral that is pushing residents out and sending its economy into crisis. For years, it was known for its affordable housing, strong agricultural sector, and close-knit community. But in 2025, things are changing fast, and not in a good way. Lethbridge's economy was heavily reliant on agriculture, manufacturing, and energy, but these industries are shrinking rapidly. The local agricultural sector has taken a hit due to severe droughts and unpredictable weather, with crop failures increasing by 30% over the last 5 years. Many farmers are struggling to keep their businesses afloat, leading to mass layoffs in food processing plants. And with the energy sector in constant decline, oil-related jobs are disappearing, pushing unemployment in Lethbridge up to 8.2%, one of the highest in Alberta. Then there's crime. Believe it or not, Lethbridge has been dubbed the crime capital of Alberta. The Crime Severity Index, CSI, is 135, far above the national average of 78. Break-ins, car thefts, and drug-related crimes have surged by 25% in just the last 3 years. The city has been struggling with a severe opioid crisis, with drug overdoses skyrocketing by 40% since 2020. The downtown area, which was once a lively spot, now has abandoned storefronts and a growing homeless population. Housing is another major issue. While Lethbridge used to be affordable, rising interest rates and inflation have made homeownership a nightmare. The average home price in 2025 sits at $430,000, up 25% from just 5 years ago. But with job opportunities disappearing, many homes sit unsold. Even renting isn't easy. The average two-bedroom apartment now costs $1,700 per month, a 20% jump from 2020. On top of all this, infrastructure is failing. Roads are full of potholes, the public transportation system is outdated, and the healthcare system is overwhelmed. Hospital ER wait times in Lethbridge average 13 hours, making it one of the worst in Alberta. Lethbridge's future is uncertain. Without major economic investment and a solution to its crime and drug problems, this once promising city is on the verge of collapse. Number 1. Brampton, Ontario. Brampton, Ontario, a city that has grown too fast for its own good. In 2025, Brampton isn't just collapsing, it's becoming unlivable. Let's start with overpopulation. Brampton's population is exploding, now reaching nearly 750,000 people, making it one of the fastest-growing cities in Canada. But here's the problem. The city's infrastructure and services haven't kept up. Roads are constantly jam-packed, public transit is overcrowded, and the healthcare system is at a breaking point. Brampton Civic Hospital, which was built for a city half this size, sees over 125,000 emergency room visits per year, one of the highest in Canada. Some patients wait over 20 hours to see a doctor. Then there's crime. Brampton has a crime severity index of 104, and gang-related violence has skyrocketed by 30% in the past 5 years. Break-ins, carjackings, and assaults are daily occurrences, making some neighborhoods feel completely unsafe. Even auto insurance rates are the highest in Canada, with the average driver paying over $3,000 per year. That's nearly double the Ontario average. Housing, a total disaster. Brampton's real estate market is out of control, with the average home price hitting $1.1 million in 2025. That's a 300% increase from 2015. And renting isn't much better. A two-bedroom apartment now costs over $2,800 per month. Young professionals and families simply can't afford to stay, so they're leaving for cheaper cities. But here's the twist. Even landlords are struggling. With rising interest rates and mortgage payments skyrocketing, many investors are forced to sell, leading to a collapsing housing bubble. On top of that, Brampton is suffering from serious urban sprawl. The city was never designed for this level of rapid expansion, and now it's facing severe traffic congestion, pollution, and a lack of green space. Commuting to Toronto, which used to take 40 minutes, now takes over an hour and a half each way. Brampton is also dealing with poor governance and mismanagement. In 2023, the city's budget deficit reached $150 million, leading to cuts in public services. Garbage collection, road maintenance, and public safety funding have all taken a hit, making the city feel more neglected than ever. At this rate, Brampton is collapsing under its own weight. Unless drastic changes are made, it will remain Canada's most overcrowded, expensive, and struggling city.